Good morning. So, after watching the news and realizing that the religious yahoos murdered a woman, calling it whatever they call it, morality police, well, who the fuck is policing you men? Nobody. Pornhub, priests having sex with little boys and just apologizing. Not just little boys, all the little kids. All the children of the world, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. The priest fucked all the little children in the world. Fuck you, religious yahooisms. Now, men of the world, and I'm speaking directly to you this time. If you want to go on a date with us, but then try to shove your godism down our throats, don't talk to me. If you want to go on a date with us and tell us we're whores and we can't talk about our exes as if we didn't have a life before you, like this yahooism here, don't talk to us, okay? If you think that it's a sex buffet and because you sleep in bed with us, you can immediately have sex when you wake up, don't talk to us. If you think you can ditch us with your kids for 13, 14, 15 years straight and then come back and take credit for how great they turned out, don't talk to us. Now, this morning, we're going to do an indoor garden. We're going to review religion's negative effects on humanity. We're going to review the scientific breakthroughs in technology, including light technology, artificial wombs, and ways to actually move humanity forward. See, look, the government doesn't have a food crisis because it won't give us the materials we need to grow our own food. Why? Because it wants to be in control of everybody else. Well, I'm the boss, I'm Trudeau. You're not my boss. And you're not my king, you friggin' psychopathic murderers. I'm not a psychopathic murderer. You are a psychopathic murderer. You know how you know you're a psychopathic murderer? You run around killing women for the same stuff you do. Yeah, that's right. Oh, well, she was not being moral enough. But have you ever seen how you guys behave? You sit in public, you grope yourselves, you got your fingers up your anus half the time. Like you big boomers, you gotta go away now. You're killing society with your utter and stupidness, just stupidness. Okay? You've got no justification for any of your laws other than, well, God. Even when you talk science, well, God made science. God did not make science. Smart people made science. Smart people who stopped listening to their idiot parents when they realized that God was never going to save you. You ever notice how when there's a mass murder, there's no God? When a woman's killed for not wearing her hijabi correctly, there's no God. But you know when there's a God? When they want to tell you what to do. Oh, go to church on Sunday and pray while they have sex with you, and then you're the whore. Are you nuts? Obviously you are. Men of the world. After listening to Johnny go on and on about his problems, what, men are the only one who have problems? Did you have to risk your life 5 times to give birth to somebody else's child so that somebody else can steal your child from you and then rape your child while in their custody? No? Then what the hell are you talking to me for? You think a woman of the world, we just had it with you. Any excuse to oppress us, like your laws are all written by men and you might have a couple women in power, but they're primarily written by men, and not good men either, but pedophiles, people who think that Pornhub is a legitimate business and should exist, are in control, while the intelligent people are unemployed because we don't want to believe in your godism. Oh, you're God bashing me now. Fuck off. Who asked you to run around telling me about God? The reason I'm God bashing you is because you won't shut up about it. Nobody cares about your damn God anymore. Your God doesn't seem to give a shit about women or children, but you know what your God does give a shit about? Who I'm fucking? Your God ought to fuck right off. Clearly your God's on crack. Or some other fucking drug. Maybe he's on ice. Or methamphetamine, but God is on something. Your God doesn't seem to give a crap about humanity. But you know what your God gives a crap about? What I'm doing? Tell God to shut up. Oh, our Heavenly Father, who's a rapist piece of shit. Oh, how come all the dads are raping their goddamn kids, eh? If your God is so good. Your God's a fucking joke. I'm not listening to it because it's stupid. That's right, stupid. You can call it what you want, but you're brainwashed into believing an imaginary fictional fairy tale creature is going to save you. We have all the technology in the world to save humanity. Heck, if we would have progressed with science, we would have already had artificial wombs that were capable of bringing a baby to term. But instead, we listen to you religious yahoos. And what good does it do us? Nothing. You run around killing us in mass numbers, and then you apologize. Well, let's just start letting everybody out of jail then. They're sorry too. I'm sure they're sorry by now. So let's let them out, right? The Pope just gets to apologize. The Queen just gets to die and get millions of dollars that she used forced breeding people for no other reason than to turn them into slaves, you psychopaths. And parents aren't self-absorbed. Any other species, when you grow up, lots of other species, the kids leave and the species survives. So maybe humanity's just a bunch of sookie babies at this point. Like your parents can't have a life outside of you. They have to fucking concentrate and worry what you think all the time. And when you do come near them, you beat them and attack them. This is exactly why we should have artificial wombs. Raise your own sniveling, whiny girl babies. Just because we're not at our kids' beck and call all the time, well, no other animal is. It's only humanity. It really is. It's only humanity that thinks, right, that their parent has to be obsessed with them for all their life. Birds and other species, once the bird matures, it's gone. They have their own life, their own families, but not you. Oh, no, not humans. Humans, they got to make you feel bad about yourself with these ridiculous psychiatrists. Do you know where psychiatry came from? Sigmund Freud. Who was Sigmund Freud? He was a German male. Figure it out. Taking no advice from the Germans. They killed 6 million people that we actually can prove. And then there's the people they killed that we can't prove. Psychopaths. You're not a psychopath. You're not a psychopath? You're not running around murdering people for your stupid religious yahooisms? Yes, you are psychopaths, especially Iran. The entire community of Iran, except for the woman protesting, are degenerates. You care about humanity so much that you kill billions of people, all in the name of your stupid-ass war. Why doesn't Vladimir Putin have his own babies? Why doesn't Trudeau have his own babies? Why doesn't Biden have his own babies? Because this is what you do to our babies. Look what you do to them. This is what you do to babies. They're little children, and you put them in uniforms and turn them into killers. Psychopaths. Clearly, you don't need to have a religion. Doesn't need to exist. Religion is the root of all evil. Not money. Religion itself is the root of all evil. Every horrible thing that's ever happened to a woman can be traced back to you religious yahooisms. And everywhere there's a church, but there's no housing for anybody. We don't want to live in your church because you'll kill us, like the residential schools or the Butterbox babies or the home for colored children. It just goes on and on, you religious yahooisms. I'm totally in favor of the NSLC making housing. You got lots of customers. Don't forget to soundproof because you know drunks are loud. They don't do it on purpose. They just don't know they're loud yet. Second of all, parents aren't self-absorbed. Parents are trying to change the world. You yahooisms. Healing from your... Like, just fucking grow up and go get on with your lives. We all have bad parents. But we don't use it as an excuse to bash our parents for eternity and whine about our sniveling problems, like as if our parents didn't have any problems of their own. We didn't live in a religious-obsessed world. Would it even friggin' matter? That's what gets me. You've got people convinced that they're bad people, and they're not bad people. I was taking care of my kids, but society said I couldn't have them because I'm not white. Society said, because I at one point had an addiction, that I couldn't have my kids. Society said, because I lived in Nova Scotia, I can't have my family. Society said I deserve to be beaten, sodomized, and put on Pornhub as a child. That's what your God said. So nobody's listening to you religious idiots no more, Johnny. Don't ever talk to me again. I don't want to talk to you. Pretend to like science and then talk to me about God. That's a nasty trick. I said I like science. And that goes for you too, Elon Musk, you insane billionaire. Breed your own slaves if that's what you want, but we're not giving birth to babies just so you can kill them. Psychos. That's how you know you're psychotic. You know that? That's how you know you're psychotic, when you start forcing people, right? Forcing people to have babies. And for what? So you can kill them in 15 years or less? Well, who in their right mind wants to have your friggin' sniveling, whining, can't get dressed, won't shower, sucky babies? That's what your fucking kids turn out to be. Women are expected to take care of men all their lives, even as little daughters. What do you men do? I bring you over to my house to help you out with your problem, and I listen to you, and because I don't want to listen to it after 5 days, I'm the problem? Fuck you, Catholics. Take your religious yahooisms and shove it up your yahooism ass. And to the creators of YouTube, I'm assuming you're male and that every time a female activist says something, you got to come up with some sort of violation of your community standards. You're a violation of my standards that you can't blur an image instantly or mute a song instantly. Women get beat and raped while music is on, and they can't even prove it because you won't let them. At least Twitter lets you put more information out as an activist than you do. You guys silence activists with your copyright law. You could care less about copyright material. People use it all the time. I know. I've been watching videos. But when a black or a native activist says something, you constantly want to have a copyright strike. You could care less about copyrighted material, or all your copyrighted material will be taken down. And that goes for swearing, too. And for God's sakes, there was once a song called Smack That. What do you think about it? Smack that. I'm on that bar. Smack that. Give me some money. Smack that. I'm an idiot. That's right, Akon. So, or how about any of Eminem's music? Pink swore. So what? Just is it that swearing is illegal, or is it just swearing if you're not white? I'm trying to understand your laws, but it seems like they're a little bit sexist and racist all at the same time. You got misogynistic laws, you got racist laws, you're psycho. What Canadians actually eat compared to what Americans think we eat. You know, Canada isn't that far away, America. I can guarantee you, America, that we eat normal food like you do, America. Right? We're not this foreign country that is that different from you. Right? Our restaurants serve similar food. Our people eat it. So, as you know, we just took this tomato out of the garden. Now, this is eggs. Do you have eggs in America? Of course you do. Stop listening to the voices in your heads, right? And learn about us. We don't live far enough away for you to think we eat strange food. Like, who the hell eats pheasant nowadays? It's an unreal thought that we would be eating pheasant. I'm sure we did once, but it was out of necessity. And same with moose and that. Like, that's primarily more of a native tradition. Most Canadians eat regular food just like you see in the movies. Right? Just like you're seeing right now. That's the most ridiculous stereotype ever. And it's true, we do got some yummy desserts that I didn't know existed. They look kind of cool. But for the most part, that's what the elite eat, right? Regular citizens eat regular food, regular earth food. Rich people eat creme brulee and stuff like that, not us. That's what the elite eat because they can afford it. And the elite make it so nobody can ever afford anything they have. That's what the elite do, right? I'm just about tired of religion. At one point, being gay was illegal, if you remember correctly. That's right, everything's illegal according to you men. Who is listening to you? Like, why should we listen to you? Do you ever listen to the way guys talk? Babbling, schmattling? Come on. Rewind the traumatized brain. The Fifth Estate. Church members accused of kidnapping, murder in the Philippines. Well, of course they are. The church is the problem. And that's exactly why we're going to review religion. Stop playing in the background. I don't want a copyright violation. America reacts to 10 things Canadians want you to know. Well, let's listen to this guy. He seems okay.
Come on, everyone. I'm just a typical, average American here today to react to the top 10 things Canadians want me to know. Apparently.
I'd like you to know that we eat normal food.
So I'm here. I'm here to answer the call.
All right, thank you.
probably referring to misunderstandings that Americans and other people have when they think of Canada.
Yep.
And if not, I'm very interested to see from a Canadian's point of view, what Canadians think the rest of the world needs to get straight. That we all think about Canada that is wrong. And
Well, for one, we don't eat pheasant.
What we think about America and some of the funny stuff. But anyway,
We also think some stupid stuff, but we have to research too.
Selfish. I'm here to indulge what the Canadians want me to know. So let's go.
For this list, I'm looking to clarify Canadian stereotypes, correct misconceptions,
Okay.
and generally correct about things that we think you should know about the North American community. Number 10, it's not winter all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a summer period.
You know,
In fact, it's still warm right now.
it's real. Americans view Canada as
We don't all live in a permafrost.
This is not true.
We have relatives that fought in the war from your country.
Blizzards and polar bears.
Yeah.
I have a stereotype that all Canadians live in igloos.
Okay, I actually don't. I didn't ever think that they
Well, that's good. At least you're one of the smarter ones. Look, this is what it looks like outside of our door right now, and it's October. You see? It's quite a bit different if you are in BC. But we're in Nova Scotia, and here in Nova Scotia, right? In Nova Scotia, this is what it looks like outside. As a matter of fact, we got a touch of the hurricane, right? Look, outside of my door, it's kind of hard to see, but it's there, is, like, look, I'll show you. Blackberry, right? There's no snow, right? Look, see? Blackberries, trees, rain, right? Yesterday it was warm, but today it's not because of the storm, right? But it's not hot either. It's not freezing, right? Like, we have normal buildings. You should really check out some of my videos when I walk around in Canada. Like, we have apartment buildings, we have houses, we have semi-detached houses.
Is the same in Canada? Is Canada just like the same seasonality? For some reason, I thought because it was
Yes, actually. We are the same seasonality. We have 4 seasons. We have spring, summer, winter, and fall. Wow, what do you guys teach your students at school, American teachers? And Canadian teachers, bring back North American history. Bring back Canadian history in a North American perspective. That was a good course. And the students need it because Canadians don't know their own history either. They're like, well, we didn't have slaves. You never got rid of them. You just changed the title.
and things get colder, that it would explain why Canada could be most of the time covered in snow, maybe all the time. I'm wrong though. Sorry.
Any other countries?
Look, you're wrong. Right now it's raining. We're not covered in snow. That's BC and Nunavut. And even Nunavut, the permafrost is going bye-bye.
Canadian seasons are very unique.
Okay.
Even in the summer or fall, it can be
Okay.
surprised at just how warm it can get, especially in the southern part of the country. Though one
right.
thing is certainly true. Visiting Montreal in the winter can get a little slippery.
Yeah.
Toronto is not the capital of the country.
Right.
Ottawa is.
Actually,
By the way, Canadian citizens, and I know that people in Toronto want to protest because you really think it should be the capital, but still, Ottawa's the capital of Canada. Not New Brunswick, not PEI, not Alberta, not Edmonton, not BC, not Nunavut, not Toronto.
That comes to mind is Toronto and maybe Quebec, but Toronto for sure. Actually, the more
Also, by the way, people, the sheeple Toronto is pronounced Toronto. It's not pronounced Toronto. Idiots. I don't know why you keep calling it Toronto, guys, but it's Toronto. That's how it's spelled, and that's how it's pronounced. And A is not a real word. Okay, so stop saying A. A is not a real word unless you're trying to get Justin Trudeau to go back to France, in which case you say, leave Canada, eh? So, Canadian citizens are misunderstood, I think. No, we like, here in Nova Scotia, we probably won't get snow until November. We might get a little beforehand, but it'll probably be like mid-November before we really get any accumulation of snow. I find it interesting that you guys think it snows all the time here. And again, I'm going to ask your teachers, what are you teaching your students besides how to load a gun? Maybe you could teach them some geography. Bring back geography. Bring back science. Remove religious Yahooism. Maybe it's time for online learning. These guys are learning more online than you taught them in all their lives. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's winter here all the time? Or in each province is uniquely different, not only with culture, like what people do, but uniquely different with temperatures. In Toronto, it's a much more dry cold than it is here in Nova Scotia. In Nova Scotia, it's more of a damp cold. It tends to bother people with arthritis more. And the cold in BC is so cold, none of us want to go there in the winter. We're like, you've got some nice ski resorts, but man, I can't afford your expensive keep your warm clothes. And that's the other thing, that Canada's poor spend the majority of their money on some sort of wear to deal with the weather. For instance, I'll show you. So this is my work gear from when I worked for People Ready, Max's, Super Temp, Integrated Staffing, People Ready. Did I get all the temp agencies I worked for? Probably not, but most of them. Look, this cost like $300 and some just so I could go to work and make a crappy paycheck and have crappy unstable hours. But I kept it. You know why? Because I'm smart and I know it gets cold in Canada. So in the winter, we wear this crap because it's freezing, but we still want to do some things. Look, other things that Canadians wear. Work hats. See? All the stickers are different places you work. By the way, somebody stole my level 1 hat and replaced it with that crappy one, so those aren't accurate. We wear work glasses. Safety gear. We wear safety gloves. We wear a safety vest. Right? We get up at 5 o'clock in the morning when we work to manage our ridiculous transit system that is the most inefficient in the world here in Nova Scotia. By contrast, the citizens of Toronto, not Toronto, but Toronto, see, look, we wear safety gear. Some of the things all citizens are supposed to have in common is we are supposed to wear this at work. That's backwards, but no, it's on right. So you see, we're just like you in a way. I find it very interesting. So I made myself a pretty simple toast. Look, we use regular toast. Just regular bread. We all don't eat homemade bread anymore. Look, see? Now look, put a couple tomato slices there. I have somebody visiting, so I'm only going to put this there and save this for them. I'm just going to make them a breakfast sandwich because I used the rest of my toast, or bread rather. It's not toast until you toast it. Another thing Canadian citizens do is we garden indoors. We understand science too. We all don't believe in Godism. Most of us do not. That's our religious Yahooism parents. Look, we garden. Look, we understand that if you add ashes and eggshells, that it works as a fertilizer because the government thinks it needs to control how much fertilizer we can buy. It's too bad we couldn't use the crap that comes out of Trudeau's mouth as fertilizer. Right? So yeah, Canadians are a lot like you, actually. Believe it or not, like when we watch that 70s show, we can barely tell you're in another country except the whole Nixon thing, and that was hilarious. You know, the episode where Topher streaks with the Nixon face on, that was hilarious to us. So look. And also, Canadians once burnt down the White House. We were pissed off. Yeah, Canadians have ridiculously bad tempers, and you never know what they're going to do next. That's true. Canadians, and a lot of times Canadians suffer from Mormonism like you do. Yeah, real idiot Mormonism stuff, right? We're like, why are you idiots trying to shove your religious yahooism down my throat? Well, can I tell you about God? Well, God just wants me to spread the word of God. God is a pedophile and a Karen. That's what God is, and we don't listen to pedophiles and Karens. Now listen, American citizens, come on, you live right next door. This is actually hilarious to me that you guys think this stuff about us. Real things that Canadian citizens actually eat. I am baffled that you don't know this, that we just eat regular food. Look, I'm going to put some like pepper and salt on this because I like pepper and salt, right? And even citizens who, yeah, like we eat normal food. At our restaurants, we eat normal food. America? You know, they forced us to learn your history. Why don't you guys know anything about us? Why do we have to learn about you if you weren't learning about us? No wonder we have all these fights amongst us. You think we're different. We're not. We smoke weed. Look, we buy our weed. We legalized it, so we now buy our weed at the liquor store. It comes in containers like this. Although, we still have, people who ignore Justin Trudeau's rather monopolist law that only allows rich old white guys to sell cannabis, even though the rich old white guys have no idea what the smokers want. So we have agencies like this, right? And they deliver. There's like a $5 fee, but at the beginning of COVID, there wasn't even that. It was just you make a $60 purchase. Now it's $65. It went up a little bit because of inflation. But like, we know how to grow our own plants, but our government just makes everything ridiculously expensive that we could do anything that we could use to be self-sustainable, like lights or like insulated buildings that have proper soundproofing. The government doesn't do anything like that. It only does that for its rich, right? It's much like your government. Our GOP is a jerk. And mostly males. And to be honest, kind of like your history, 14 old guys got together and decided to make some laws that we're still listening to. It's utterly ridiculous. And the female police officers are actually worse than the males. They were supposed to be a buffer and make it easier for females. But in reality, the female officers are tyrants. They're abusive, exploitive, and insensitive. They could care less about the females in the community, and all they care about is keeping their fancy job with a gun. So I find this guy, like the fact that this guy is doing research makes me want to do some research on you other countries so I can stop having some warped views myself. But I think I'll start with America just to see what it's like over there today. And I'll just pick a state every day or something because I find this intriguing. At least somebody's taken some initiative to learn about Canada, but I also find it very depressing that we share a border. And often I went shopping over there in Buffalo when I was like a teenager. We have more in common than we do different. And you even got Trump supporters here. We got people in the woods acting like crazy Trump supporters there. Like, Trump's gonna win. Trump didn't do anything wrong. He's gonna be found not guilty. And you're like, yeah, all right. Trump's a liar. Trump stole the docs and gave them to Trudeau. That's what you should know. Trudeau's got the docs because Trudeau's on the client list. So when I was a dancer, one of the major things was I worked at Deja Vu Showgirls, which was in Toronto, and just down the street from what was called the landing strip. Both of those were close to Air Canada. Now, personally, the landing strip was pretty racist, so I couldn't go there. But the Greeks owned Deja Vu Showgirls, and they liked brown people. That's right, the Greeks like browns. Who'd have known? Yet it's true. And they weren't violent like other Caucasians were. So maybe you could take a lesson from your Greek friends. Stop being violent morons, you Catholic yahooisms. For some reason.
Toronto for sure, actually. The more I think about it, if I took a poll of Americans, what's the only city in Canada? They'd be like, oh, Toronto. There's only one city in Canada, that's Toronto. Must be.
What about Montreal? What about Halifax? What about Edmonton? What about Nunavut? I think it has its own city now. And I'm only naming a few because I'm being lazy, but I could easily research and find the many cities in Canada.
The capital. So I think this actually is.
You watch this guy. I'll be right back.
Americans do believe.
Well, there is a joke that they like to consider themselves the center of the universe. Contrary to popular belief, Toronto is not the capital of Canada.
Okay.
Sorry, Toronto, you really not
It is, however,
I bet there is a lot of fun in Toronto. I've seen stuff in Toronto in other videos. Toronto is fun. Hey.
the largest city in Canada by population,
fun.
and the fourth largest city in America, just above Chicago.
Oh,
Okay,
Toronto's the fourth biggest.
what is this guy's name? I want to talk directly to you, Mr. React. What's your name? Tyler Bucket. So Tyler Bucket. Canadian citizens have female workers, and those female workers, at least they used to until the Islamic community came, took all of our jobs and made us go home and knit and crochet. Look, we wear work boots with certifications. See, this is our CAC certification. See, look. There it is, little green symbol that tells you you're wearing the right work boots. These particular work boots are steel-toed. They also are great if somebody tries to break you. Just give them a big kick with the steel-toed boots and they'll leave that be. And believe me, I've worn those boots out at night for safety purposes. Look, fiberglass boots. These are the ones that they don't have to, that you can get an x-ray with the boot on if necessary. And believe me, if you've ever broken a bone with your foot and then had to have it sawed off, you'd understand. I personally didn't go through that. Unfortunately, a lot of workers have. Because the bosses are split and don't give crap about their employees. Okay, when Canadians have to go out in the wintertime and it's cold and they don't want to wear their work clothes, they wear jackets like this. See? But often Canadians have to travel with multiple jackets because thanks to climate change, it could be freezing out and then all of a sudden by lunch, you're like sweating to death in the same outfit. Thank you very much, religious yahoisms of the world. Oddly enough, a lot of poor Canadians do wear hoodies, and Canada suffers from nationalism too. Look at the crap from the dollar store. It's like running around advertising you're a Canadian citizen so they can send you back home when you escape. I escaped Canada. We should actually make a t-shirt that says, I survived Canada without being murdered by my government. Look, in the spring or in the summer or even in the early fall, Canadians wear leather. Some wear suits. We don't like them as much. Look, smart Canadians wear leather. We like leather. We like leather. We don't like whips and chains anymore because what? The BDSM industry fucked that all up. We don't like anal sex. The guys just think so. But they're wrong. So yeah, Canada suffers from nationalism. It has a problem where it only wants to employ people that look like this. Canada makes you take a ridiculous amount of courses. This is the second time I've renewed this, $100 each. So the food handling didn't change. Nothing changed except I had to pay them more money. This guy's from your country, Carolina. He got over here and came for freedom. Imagine the shock he must have had when he hit Nova Scotia. And actually, Nova Scotia did start off as a place of freedom for blacks, but then they took everybody's land back and they came up with these temp jobs and they turned Nova Scotia into a concentration camp for the poor and mixed and blacks and indigenous and anybody else who doesn't fit Justin Trudeau's ridiculous mandate of what he thinks is a responsible Canadian citizen. Look, we have technology. Although we don't seem to have cops that can investigate, we just have cops that can kill you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lower tech people and boomers like this. Look, we even know how to purchase things online from China. Look, broken devices that the government won't come get. We should have an FBI, but then the government would get caught and all the skeevy stuff it does. What else can't we have? A McDonald's, and people like coffee. Canadians are a big fan of coffee, and Tim Hortons is not the only place. A little known fact is there used to be, and it might still exist in Toronto, Second Cup is a big thing for the elite, as well as Starbucks, although they're racist as all hell, so I don't go there. We have police officers that are entirely incompetent and entirely incapable, and they wonder why we're protesting it. Well, we're protesting you because you keep stealing our tax dollars. You keep stealing our tax dollars, but nothing changes. 22 people were murdered. When I asked the police about it, they just stopped talking to me. I'm like, could you save 22 people's lives? Well, no. So when I tell you evidence and you tell me I'm wrong, how do you know I'm wrong? You just decided I was wrong in your underdeveloped brain that has no college education whatsoever? By the way, our cops only have to go to school for 6 months. Things that make you just question why the government does it, right? Anyway, I'm going to eat some breakfast because we eat breakfast. We use forks and knives. I can't believe Americans don't know anything about us. And Canadian bacon isn't actually that popular. Most people prefer regular bacon, the strip bacon like you eat. But I do think it's nice that this guy's trying to educate you other Americans, because whenever a Canadian tries to educate you, you think we're too stupid to teach you. The Canadians are all stupid, right? No, most Canadians are intelligent. That's why they're protesting our government. We're like, your math and your science makes no sense. Because anybody who has a scientific mind knows that science can be duplicated. If I do an experiment here, if it's scientific, you should be able to do it in your house and have the same result. If you can't, that's not science. So Pfizer and all these other places are extorting us, and they're not using any scientific method. And real science takes years to develop, not days or weeks or months. Not that the government understands that, because, well, our government Justin Trudeau's major was drama class. My major was law. I also studied science, economics, cosmetology as a youth, and then later I took a humanitarian style course. It's called social services. It used to be humanitarian. They should have left the word that way. It made more sense. We have colleges. We have religions, organized religions that not all of us like. And it's very different in none of it than it is in Nova Scotia. And it's very different in Toronto than it is in Nova Scotia, because in Toronto, women are still allowed to talk. Here in Nova Scotia, if you're talking to a woman, the cops will show up at your door and arrest you for talking too loud. Instead of insulating the buildings, which would totally solve the problem, the men of Canada have decided to leave it like this because they like y'all to have a walking partner and follow you around. And also, we have an age gap difference. We have the baby boomers that we can't seem to convince that we're not just sex objects. We can't seem to convince the baby boomers that we're intelligent and we can fix the world. Instead, they have all these ridiculous meetings to have a meeting about the meeting. Look, Heineken. Some people like Heineken beer. This is from the rich building. My building tends to have Busch Ice. The poor people still drink Colts. The poor people also drink Facts. The poor people take empties into the recycle place for the sole purpose of buying more beer or whatever they needed. One of the other things that the poor do to survive in Canada is share, which is something the elite have no idea how to do. What's sharing? Is she a person? No, sharing, you idiots. Now, the government would convince you that the citizens have a food crisis, but we have a crisis of overpriced efficiency items like lights. This light here costs $100 and some. I can't afford to replace the bulb, and that's why it's not as bright as it should be. But I bought these lights from China, and they were much cheaper. So everybody's like terrified of China taking over. If we can just get them to stop killing us for sex or for their own sadistic enjoyment. Look, we got tomatoes in Canada. Also, Canadians are ridiculously inquisitive, right? So they always go learn new things. Look, this is Swiss Charter. It's a lot like spinach. It tastes a lot like spinach, and we like to eat it with lemon and butter and salt and pepper. Anyway, Canada's a lot like you, believe it or not. I know you got some differences, but we're a lot more like you than different. And it turns out I've been learning about other countries, and most of the other citizens of the world have been going through the same problem our citizens have been going through, which is government.
I didn't know that. It's huge, then.
The title of Canadian capital goes to the much smaller and quieter Ottawa.
Ottawa. Yes. Oh, Ottawa. Get in my brain, Ottawa. Get in there. I just learned that. I don't know why I didn't think of Ottawa. It's fun to say, Ottawa. I'm aware of Ottawa. Most Americans are. We just don't really know what goes on there, or that it's the capital. Sorry.
Get the law. So this is a beautiful capital. It's dedicated to being the center of government, much like Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Ottawa often gets mocked for being boring.
Sure, I was great. And everything broke from this.
Really?
Yes. Other than my
This narrator's being kind of like she's trying to roast Canada. She's like, Toronto, known for being super boring. Like, no one thinks that. No one.
What do you mean Toronto's boring?
None of these people-
Don't listen to this narrator. It's obviously some yahoo hired by the government. Toronto's a great place. It's got some bad things, like, for instance, Carla Volk and Paul Bernardo. We didn't much like that. The two child killers. But on the other hand, Toronto has Canada's Wonderland, which is basically like your Disneyland. It's got Center Island. Have you ever been to Center Island? It's awesome. Even the poor have some pretty cool things to do, like St. Stephen's Community Center and other places in downtown Toronto. Toronto has nice subway systems. You can go anywhere you want in Toronto. If you're bored, you can just take a bus and you travel all around. It's great. But what Toronto doesn't seem to have is trees. Part of the reason I sometimes miss the East Coast was because Toronto doesn't have trees. What did you do with all the trees? Well, they tore it down and put up a parking lot. They put up a parking lot. They put up a high rise. They put up a high rise that the poor couldn't afford to live in. The same poor who built the high rise have to sleep outside of the floor, while the people in power think that that's a good system. They're like, they worked hard, they deserve that. No, they didn't. They worked hard at ripping off the poor, just like in America. Also, our citizens also want to storm Parliament. They're just as angry as your citizens were. I call it the Trump effect myself. See what you've done, Trump? You made everybody just a little bit crazy. But Canadians do often idolize Americans. That's one thing that's true about Canada. We often idolize them and see them as somehow as almost like godlike creatures. Yeah. We almost like pet the Americans. Like, you're from America, let me touch you, as if you're somehow horribly different, right? Canadians really should get over petting other countries or other people that are different. Stop petting people. No, you can't touch my hair.
Well, known for being super boring. Again, no one thinks that. No one thinks it's like the most incredible place ever, only because they don't know what's there. But they certainly don't think it's boring. So I don't know. This narrator is really trying to roast Ottawa. Good job with my friends and family.
Look,
Interesting people.
he's right. The narrator, why is the narrator roasting Toronto? Look, we have things like a vape pen in Canada. Yeah, we're that advanced. We understand science too. We're like, yeah, we smoke, but the old way was dirty and clunky. We also have mad scientists and doctors that kill us for no reason. It's almost like Hitler's Germany, but in Canada.
While not as exciting as Toronto, perhaps, Ottawa's charms are still not to be missed.
The Paris of Central Canada.
Hey, they even have black people in Ottawa. Imagine that.
Canadian is
Also, Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone, was Canadian.
Is this true?
Yes!
Huh?
Yes!
Basketball.
Oh my god, I really wish I could have an interactive chat with this guy. I got so much to tell you about Canada. I thought you knew.
Where were you? Canadian American. Yeah, I mean, basketball is huge in America. I bet most Americans would tell you basketball was invented in America. For sure they would.
They're wrong. Also, the Raptors are the best team we've got. The Raptors are great, whereas the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is a primarily all-white team, sucks.
Probably our second biggest sport behind football. Not soccer, football. Let's be clear. Wow.
Believe it or not, it was the Canadian James Naismith, a McGill University graduate, who invented this popular sport back in 1891.
Wow.
Naismith was a phys ed teacher at the YMCA International Training School in Springfield, Massachusetts. He struggled with a class of students who were disobedient and short-tempered due to being stuck inside all day thanks to a harsh winter. He resolved to create an indoor game to keep the students interested.
And if you think about basketball is really an interesting sport. This guy had some creativity. Because there's like the whole dribbling thing with your hands. I mean, I know that sounds obvious because basketball exists, but just think about basketball before it existed. Would you ever think, oh, well, I'll invent a little game where
Look, Canadians like basketball so much, we even got garbage cans shaped like basketball
Honestly, a pretty
hoops.
inventive game.
And it was often
Look.
the same shape.
Canadians know how to dribble.
Yeah.
Canada likes basketball, eh? It's hilarious.
Canadian bacon. Yeah, Canadian bacon. That is.
We just eat regular bacon. Look, we even got little basketballs.
I never understood it.
My basketball is a basketball. I can't believe you guys think this stuff about us.
And I don't know randomly from my life, very randomly, people would just be like, oh, there's like some Canadian bacon.
Oh, check the room. We'll be in the kitchen.
Canadian bacon.
Yep, that's right. The term Canadian bacon is actually one made up by Americans. In Canada,
Yeah.
it's known
Yeah, right? Yeah.
as factory, which is a form of
Okay, so what's hilarious? So other things that poor Canadians do for money when they can get a hold of it without stealing, although there are Canadians that steal for a living, I'm not one of them. They do things like taking copper. Some people will strip it first because you get more money. Other people will take it in as is to the recycle depot because the rich are forever throwing away things that are worth money.
more accurate term.
Back bacon.
But really, it's just ham. Just look at it. Does that really look like bacon? No.
Huh, yeah, it is just ham. That I was kind of aware of. Not really Canadian bacon. Sorry, back bacon. I'm learning. Back bacon. But yeah, just call it ham. Although it is kind of fun. It's the only thing in America that I can think of that we named and it has the word Canada in it. So you know what?
Yeah, Canadians always wonder about that too.
Let's keep it. I like it.
And that's agrees.
If ham's Canadian bacon, then what the hell do you call bacon?
Bacon.
Seriously.
We in Canada also don't know why they named it Canadian bacon. We're also a little baffled as to that because most Canadians don't want that at a restaurant. It's one of the least sold food items in the kitchen. Most Canadians like the same bacon that you get at McDonald's on your burger.
As such,
Oh.
the fact that Canada's come to be associated with this term borders on being offensive to the Canadian culinary world. In all
What?
seriousness,
What? Is that true? Why? Come on. I think it's fun. I always thought the name was fun, at least. It made it sound exotic. And it was like, oh, Canadian bacon. It's from Canada?
This is not hilarious. You still didn't find your shirt. I'll come in and
Canadian
help you.
bacon is excellent if you live south of the border. So if you want a real taste of Canadian bacon, you just have to make the trip.
Oh, Canadian bacon, as in bacon from Canada, which for us would just be bacon. So you could really get lost in this whole bacon verse if you weren't careful.
I highly recommend the Maple Ways variety.
No, you gave me Canadian bacon instead of bacon. This mistake cannot go unpunished.
Number 6. Tim Hortons isn't our only national soft drink.
Okay, I was wondering about this because I saw another video about cool stuff in Canada that I reacted to, and this Tim Hortons
Go unpunished.
Number 6.
Yeah, Tim Hortons.
Canadians
sorry.
know how to brew their own brew.
It seemed like a really cool place, but it also sounded like, gosh, it was the
I
only
have no idea.
coffee,
But they're
fast
we
food,
only live next door.
general store, baked goods place in Canada, and they were just everywhere, and that was all you could get.
Tim Hortons isn't our only national soft drink.
Okay.
If you're in the mood for a quick double-double or a box of Timbits, this is a great place to go.
Timbits, double. What are these things? Tim.
I can answer that. Double double is 2 cream, 2 sugar, or 2 milk, 2 sugar. They call it double double. Timbits are little tiny round donuts that taste awesome. My favorite's the chocolate one, although I also like the chocolate with coconut and the honey glaze.
Timbits. Oh, it's a food.
They don't know anything about us.
Tim Hortons. Bite-sized morsels of our traditional donuts.
See,
Sounds good.
they are.
Who knew?
It's the stuff.
All you did is make me want to buy a box of Timbits.
Double. What is this? Double.
This guy is reacting to things Canadians want them to know. I'm reacting to his reaction. Do you know they think it snows everywhere here all year round? You know we live right beside you, you know that, America? Like, come on, dudes. Canada also has its own gay population.
Double. Double. Toil and trouble. Okay. Tim Hortons. A coffee? It's a coffee. Okay. Cool. Seems cool. I'm up to speed. I can go to a Tim Hortons now and kind of make my way through. I get coffee and donuts.
For a box of Timbits,
Also, Tim Hortons has breakfast sandwiches. They have a lunch menu like chili and soup, and they have roast beef sandwiches. In reality, it's like a tiny mini restaurant.
this is a great place to stop.
Let's donuts. Okay, they're like 2 for a loadie.
But it's not Canada's only coffee chain, or even its best. Second Cup is another of Canada's national coffee chains.
I like Second
I
Cup.
argue it's much better, albeit typically more expensive.
It is better, and they're right about the more expensive, but Second Cup has like cinnamon and flavor shots and all this other stuff you can put in your coffee, and Tim Hortons just has bland old Tim Hortons coffee, unless you want to pay a ridiculous fee. It's hilarious to me.
It seems like.
Breakfast sandwich, right? I'll make you a breakfast sandwich.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember. Tim Hortons.
What are you
Okay.
Hmm?
What are you gonna try?
Tim Hortons sounds
Earlier
like
it was
it's
raining.
more of a general foods, baked goods, and a coffee, kind of quick on the go. And this Second Cup is kind of more coffee specialty, which would make sense if it's more.
Yes, you got it. That's exactly it. Tim Hortons branched out into food, and Second Cup is just coffee. But really delightful coffee. I can't wait until they start adding bourbon into their menu. And yeah, sometimes we put bourbon in our coffee.
Expensive, it's kind of more if you want this fancy coffee. I get it.
What's your second cup of coffee?
Third, fine. You could also try Montreal Juice Ben, which has cafes across the province of Quebec.
And
Competitive pricing, amazing marketing campaigns, and its place in pop culture has made Tim Hortons the reigning brand.
yeah,
We've got options. Plus,
Okay.
we even have Starbucks.
Starbucks. I don't go there personally, but that's probably where every
Starbucks is racist.
visits Canada ends up going. Out of fear, because they don't
Some Canadians brew their own Tim Hortons at home, so they don't have to wait in the ridiculous lineup with only one person that takes 45 minutes to get served. For some reason, Tim Hortons employees are terribly inefficient in Canada. At least this end of Canada.
French.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
French there too?
Hey, Hey, I just learned something new about Montreal, though. I didn't even know they had a new coffee chain.
Right.
Of course, I don't have my passport to leave Canada. I can go to Montreal.
Thanks to the policies of official bilingualism enacted in the 20th century, both languages are protected and represented today.
That's cool. I don't think.
Except most Canadians don't give a crap about learning French. We just did it because they made us in school. And when the first year of school said we didn't have to learn it anymore, we stopped taking it. Mind you, now I'm learning French with Duolingo. Also, I've taken the opportunity to try to learn a little Spanish. So buenos dias to you people who speak Spanish.
A lot of Canadians are actually taught to be fluent in French. Am I understanding?
No, we're not. Jeff says Quebec and New Brunswick. The rest of Canadians speak English and Drunkenese. What's Drunkenese? Well, us drunk people have our own language, and we all understand each other when we're drunk. Now, the sober people don't get it, but the drunk people, they know when you're asking them to go get them another beer. Just with a look. Yeah, so we have Drunkenese, we have English, French, and they're still trying to protect indigenous language, such as the Mi'kmaq language and the Métis. But in reality, Canada doesn't really respect anybody's language that isn't English. Most of Canada is in the odds with Quebec. They're like, oh, they just leave us alone. They go away already. Like, we'll let you have that part of the country if you just promise never to talk to us again. Don't say. Probably go and play s'il vous plaît. Yeah, like, really, most of Canada is not bilingual, and the ones who are bilingual actually usually speak around 7 languages, and they're usually the immigrant population who've had to go all over the world just to get a home, so they had to learn different languages. But the average Canadian citizen, they speak Drunkenese or politician. It's its own language. What pronoun do you use? I use Cerise.
There are French-speaking parts of Canada, from what I know. But it would be so cool if I lived in a place that was bilingual and I was taught 2 languages. I've always been so jealous that a lot of places in the rest of the world tend to teach English as a second language. So they can, people in Spain and France and Germany.
You want your sandwich now or when you come back?
They can communicate with Americans who travel.
You want to break the sandwich now or when you get back?
Can't communicate with them because we're not taught a second language. So that's too bad, honestly. It's too bad.
So, man, I gotta go to the store soon. But this is very interesting what they think, and I had no idea Montreal had its own chain of coffee. So that's nice to know. Look, Canadians like Budweiser. True story. Canadians like Martini. Canadians love vodka. We should totally have been born Russian. Canadians buy bottled water. America, what's going on? Unfortunately, I can't do this all morning with this guy because I've been interrupting him, which is unfortunate, so I'll have to do a second part. But look, Canadians understand science, at least some of us. Not Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau doesn't understand anything, but he thinks he does. Look, we're just like you. Well, not exactly like you, but we're a lot like you. An interesting fact, if you've ever been a stripper in Canada, is you guys have those little weird pasties that you put on your nipples, and in Canadian strip bars, the girls get totally naked. Yeah. Your girls had a hard time with that when they came. We're like, well, when in Canada, do as Canadians. We also have our own serial killers, stalkers, weird guys, and other idiots. Usually they call themselves Johnny or Timmy or Robert or Bruce or Kevin. Canada has its own version of Karens, and they're quite vocal and loud, but the Karens aren't respected or loved by their children. Their children are like, nah, we disagree with you. And the one thing that Canada has in common with America is that our government likes to kill its poor people to keep the rich people in power. Our police also like to kill black people just because they're black. And our law system is ridiculously inefficient for today's society. So those are some things we actually have in common with you. We both have terribly inefficient governments, but provinces behave very differently. Toronto's a lot more like New York, and Nova Scotia's more like Texas, which is oddly enough where I was going to send all of my exes. Off you go. You're going to Texas now. Also, take the GOP to Texas with you. That's your one spot we're going to let you be. We don't want you anywhere else in the world. Now, listen, people. I've been talking to you for like an hour, which is totally normal for me, but I have to go work on booze for now. Because a lot of Canadians like booze, but primarily a lot of poor Canadians because the corporations have bought up all the land. So there's really not a lot of things for poor Canadians to do, especially in Nova Scotia, where everywhere is owned by like Sobeys or the Superstore, or it's owned by pedophiles. Yeah, I'm really surprised. I feel like when I'm out today, maybe I'll actually take like a video of what it actually is like in Canada. And you'd be surprised how similar Canada is to the United States. Totally run by corporations. Everybody has a name on them. For instance, Nike shoes are very popular in Canada. Canadians like Nike. Look. Right? I'm just baffled as to how you people cannot know this stuff. But then again, what are they teaching our students in our schools? Because I find that some Canadians don't know their own history. They're like, what do they teach you at school? What do you do all day there? And how do we get them teaching science and math again? Because those are the things that can change the world. Instead of praying to God for hours on end, you religious yahoisms, why don't you start physically cleaning up garbage for hours on end? There's your God. I'll believe in God if you start cleaning up the environment. I'll believe in God if God stops murdering people because they didn't wear their hijabi properly. I will believe in God when the last pedophile bites the dust. And Canadians are a big fan of American music. It's true. But also Canadians have some good bands. Like I used to like Nickelback, but for some reason he wanted to make a song that said, you look better with something in your mouth, which made me want to punch him in the mouth. I don't know what with Chad Kruger. Let's maybe it was an accident. But we, the woman, don't like put it in your mouth song unless we're putting a little something in your mouth. Is that possible, Chad Kruger? Ideas that work for women Canadians. Okay, hold on a second. You're rushing me.